Start recording. Excuse me. Good thing that wasn't live.
So your beer is going to be on the stream too?
Huh?
Your beer?
Oh, yeah. Beer's fine. I don't care. All right. Ready? And 5, 4, 1. Oh, and we have an impromptu session today. I am with the one and only one and only Tony Lee. Tony, we have a little bit of the state of football here. State of the NFL. We're going to say with the NFL, we're going to go with the professional leagues. But before we get to that today, what have you been watching here within the last, couple of months since we've done this a year
ago? Well, I would pretty much say that my main gist has been based off of MMA, if anything. I just recently saw UFC 285, where, to me, obviously, I would say the GOAT of mixed martial arts, Jon Jones, ended up reclaiming another championship from a gentleman named Ciryl Gane. I would tell you to go check it out, but not going to lie, it didn't really take no more than a matter of 2 minutes. So it honestly was something that I never thought that would actually happen. The man came back from, I'd say, a 3-year layoff, and was able to gain a heavyweight championship in a division that he's never even been in. It's insane that ended up happening, So
yeah, I mean that's a guy that, and people underestimate, right, what amount of weight gain or weight loss does in those combat sports too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we saw it a lot with Bridgewater State, right? Like we had a really elite wrestling team, and watching those guys try and make weight and stuff was like insane. So for Jon Bones Jones, does that, in your opinion, make him then the greatest of all time? Because that's what he's saying after this.
He's my GOAT. I don't care about any type of allegations that he ended up having. There was a Turinabol scandal after or before the fight that he had with DC at UFC 200. That's why that ended up getting scrapped.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the tainted pills, if I were to be able to say so. But, yeah, he's had a very checkered past, and it's really insane as to what could have been able to happen if he actually went on the straight and narrow. Because if he ended up doing so, he would have completely cemented his legacy.
Yeah.
I mean, from what he did, what he does inside the cage is nothing more than extraordinary. I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt you, my friend, but what he used to do when he was in his, well, I would say his prime, but he was pretty much very young at the time. He was taking out not even future, but current UFC light heavyweight champions.
Well, he wasn't just taking them out; he was embarrassing them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he also the drug thing is like I one of my friends, Omar Ortiz, I played baseball with, he was talking about drugs in sports, and I have kind of come around it on my own end that I don't care anymore. Let them all take all of the drugs they want, because ultimately this sport, in sports in general, just so much further ahead than what the testing is. Gary Anderson got caught when he was playing for the Angels because he wrote a check for it because he was an idiot, and didn't pay cash for it as a professional athlete. Peyton Manning had it mailed to his house, and that's how he got caught. There was a paper. So there's only paper trails, or you get caught with extra estrogen in your system, not even the drug that you're taking, like Manny Ramirez.
Yep.
It's the battle is lost on the war on drugs in sports. It's over. Unless you want to be maybe the IOC, but even them, it's not completely. So I wouldn't hold that against Jon Bones Jones. I'm sure he's not the only one in the MMA doing it, right? Especially in a league run by Dana White. I'm sure there's a lot of,
I'm telling you one thing. I'm just going to quote Nate Diaz. They're all taking steroids. Don't worry. They're all taking steroids.
Yeah, and Nate Diaz is on the cannabis diet. So, it's, dealer's choice. Yeah, I mean, so Tony, out of, to fully catch up here, out of the Bruins and Celtics, who do you have potentially winning a championship out of the two. I know who I think it's gonna be, but what are your thoughts before I give mine?
Well, with the way that I'm seeing one of the teams sliding, I would say that the Bruins have a better chance of being able to actually get the job done.
Last night was bad though. Last night was a bad loss.
Yeah. Well, regardless of that, with just the way that it's starting to be able to turn out right now with the Celtics, I think they're on a 3-game skid right now, and losing to teams such as the Knicks, the ones that they had from before.
Dude, if the Celtics face the Knicks in the playoffs, they're done. Like, Knicks are winning that series right now. Right now, Knicks are winning that series. Julius Randle is a problem matchup for them.
He is, and he is. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, there have been times where teams have completely flipped the script in the playoffs, and it's one of those situations where that can be able to happen, but that can be able to be in the back of your mind where they may end up having your number, which really is not going to be boding well for the Celtics. The Bruins, on the other hand, they just need to stay away from Carolina, and I think they have a chance to be able to go and contend again.
Yeah, well, and they got some good news. They got some good news today. Taylor Hall has practiced, and they're giving it tentatively a 2-week timeline to him coming back. That is a massive pickup going in. Like, they've added Orloff, they added Hathaway, really great, like, not like splash trades, but like really useful trades by Don Sweeney at the deadline. And now they're going to be like what the Red Sox do every year. Yeah, we'll just get healthy and we'll be fine. Like, right. So, I agree with you. I think the Bruins have the better chance. And I think honestly, like they could face a hot goaltender. Any team in the NHL, you can face a hot goaltender and you're screwed. Or Linus Ullmark can be hot throughout the whole playoffs, right? He's been playing wonderfully. But I just, with the analytics, with the 3-point shot in the NBA, like, I don't know. I can't get behind the Celtics being consistent. I think the 3-point, does kill you at some point. So yeah, I'm with you. I think the Bruins have the best chance. I'm fully invested in the Bruins playoff run. Like, if they get bounced in the first round, it's like, oh, no big deal. But if we get another 2019 losing the Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Finals, like, gonna be a problem emotionally.
Don't
gonna be a problem. It's gonna be a problem emotionally. Like, luckily I got a wedding to have, after this. Last time I had a music festival to go to.
And again, congratulations to you, sir.
Yeah,
congratulations.
Thank you. Can't wait for the bachelor party.
That's gotta be fun.
Yeah, and for all listening, is Tony will be there as well. Kind of ringleading everything. It's all golf. We're playing like 4 rounds of golf. Like that's.
I just need to make sure I don't lose you on the course. Okay?
No, you won't lose me on the course. It's the bars on the night out that's the issue. Yeah, that's when we could have a hangover situation in general.
Oh, God.
So
before we pan off.
Yeah.
Just one more stint on the NHL, because it's been bottling my mind for a little while.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Patrick Kane going to the New York Rangers? And should that have been something that potentially Don Sweeney should have been able to look at potentially?
I'm gonna answer the second question first. No, it was absolutely not something Don Sweeney should have considered. What he did at the trade deadline was exactly what they needed. They have guys that can put the puck in the net. Even the guy we got rid of, Craig Smith, can go through spurts and put the puck in the net. Everyone up and down the lineup, even Nosek, right? Guys like that, like those are guys that get like 4 or 5 goals to the playoffs, but those 4 to 5 goals are really big goals. But getting size, intimidation, nastiness, that's what you needed. You didn't need a Patrick Kane. You didn't. And I think one of the best parts about the Bruins' offensive prowess is their chemistry, especially the Czechia line. Like, watching those guys find each other on the ice where, like, they're not even on the screen. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, he just threw that pass away. Oh, no, there's Pavel Zacha. Oh, and then it's a one-touch pass. There's Pasternak now just coming into screen, and here comes Krejci on another one-touch pass with a one-timer to finish it off. Who's also coming like, and they circle inside. It's beautiful hockey. That's not the hockey that wins you games in the playoffs, though. It's not the
No,
games that win you in the
it's
playoffs. Is when you have Dmitry Orlov lays a big hit, you get Garnet Hathaway gets into a big fight, and when guys are starting to lean on your team, I mean that's why they lost to the Blues. The Blues are bigger and stronger, so they got what they needed. I don't know if Patrick Kane makes a really big deal because again, goal scoring and a guy who's got a lot of miles on him like that, that's not what wins you championships. They need Sorokin to be like godly to make a deep playoff run, I think. So a reminder, you're watching the one and only Sizzling Sports Talk radio show, and we're doing our State of the Union, or State of Sports, and we're starting with the NFL and football. To set things up, so basically what we're doing is we're just taking stock from our point of view. It's totally, opinionated, what Sports Talk radio is about. We're going through all the different issues that are going on in the sport, in depth as we possibly can. And then, by the end of it, each of us gives kind of our thoughts on where the sport's headed, if it's in trouble or whatnot. So we start with the NFL, the biggest and most popular sport by far in the U.S., potentially not, it's certainly not bigger than soccer around the world, but they are, generating a bigger footprint than I think a lot of people thought they would ever get to as well. So Tony, to jump into it, I want to start with I think the biggest thing that the NFL has to worry about, that's injuries. I think that's, you and I have multiple different, surgeries that we've had, and we only played at the D3 level, right? Yep. I played a couple years of semi-pro. That's where I had my knee injury, and I just was like, right, so I don't have insurance through the team, it's my own insurance, and I made, a business decision. I'm like, beer league hockey's even safer than this. Golf, way safer than this. And with the league going to a 17-game season, this is, something that is really, I think, is going to be an issue for the league going down the road. I think you're going to have to plan it in a way where you have two different teams where you have a plethora of players that are I think that's why the practice squad becomes such a big deal now in the NFL, is who can you keep on this practice squad that can make an impact by slotting into a position that you just need filled by the end of the season.
Now, is that something that you would feel that they would probably need for week 17, week 18?
I think they need it throughout the whole season, because I think you need to allow these teams to have more guys on the sideline and retain talent to be able to immerse themselves in a system, right? You know it. You have to memorize a whole playbook. You have to have an entire language installed into your head. So this isn't a mercenary for hire in the NBA or the NHL, where you can have a guy come in and just instantly light a match because the game's more fluid. This is such a rigid, this is the play, this is how we're going to do it, this is how we should do it, this is what makes the other team, this is what we make the other team do by doing this. There's so much of that that I think it's not necessarily as easy to bring someone in off the street and make things work if you need it.
And you're right, because positions really do matter. And you, as being an offensive lineman, going into potentially, imagine you go into a different college and trying to be able to understand the mechanics from different plays. It's insane. Especially with the NFL, you go in, you end up getting yourself a new quarterback, and you have to go through the whole playbook back and front, considering that you're going to be their guy to be able to go in with this.
Yeah.
It's not the same situation if you have a different center that you're going to be having. Those plays are going to be a heck of a lot easier instead of ones that you can see from the NFL.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense when you see a guy like David Andrews or Jason Kelce. When they go out, their offenses become infinitely worse. I can't tell you the amount of panic I had this year when David Andrews missed time. Like,
Oh, I can't tell you how badly you've been getting on my case, considering that one of my
yeah,
guys
considering
said
it was a
almost
cheap shot.
years.
Yeah.
It was a cheap shot.
It was a
I'm
cheap
not going to say it wasn't. I'm going to call it what it was. It was a cheap shot.
It's a fucking cheap shot.
I know, but I'm going to tell you one thing, too. The one thing that has really been a big topic within the league, and you're mentioning injuries, field condition.
Right. Yeah.
The issue with field condition has become atrocious.
They should have given those players skates in the Super Bowl.
Oh
Like,
my
it was
God.
so bad. As a defensive player, like, that's so hard. Like, you know, there's a play when I was in high school, pouring rain all game. And hashtag Chuck story time. We got to create a hashtag for our next show. Like, hashtag Chuck wanders off on a story.
Just have it go like floating around on the screen.
We'll just
like,
bring Mike
story
Galvez
time.
in. He'll just start doing the Jeopardy tone. It'll get louder as I go deeper into the story. But basically, like, it cost us the game where the whole game was played on one side of the field. It was a 0-0 tie going into overtime. And we scored because in New Hampshire it was 4 downs from the 10. Like, pretty fucking basic. Which was great. And so we scored right away because we were really the better team, but the weather was a great equalizer that day. We played on a grass field. Like, it was sloppy. It was like the third rain game in a row. And they allowed the other team not to go the other way like they were supposed to, where we had played the rest of the, like, basically the whole game. They said, oh, it's too sloppy over there. So they let them have this side of the field that we had actually picked. Because we picked at the coin toss, like, no, we're gonna pick which way we want to go. And so that's why we went first and not second. So
they had the option to be able to either go first or second because you chose where you wanted to be.
Well, so we won the coin toss. So
right.
We basically, because you get 4 choices, kick, receive, or pick a side, and you defer if you're doing it at the beginning of the game, but you can pick a side. And so the way the game had been played, it was so important, depending on what side of the field that you were on, that we didn't even think about, like, picking the ball or kick or whatever. We're just like, we have to pick the side of the field that none of the game has been played on, because we'll actually be able to do something. And we did. And like, it was just like, so they made that decision. So we held them to like a 4th and like 8. They gained like 2 yards. So this was it. And the ball like rolled back to him because it was really hard to snap. And like, I came around the end, I beat my guy, but he just like, and I like reached for the ball and the tackle just like pushed me and I like slid like 5 yards. And I just like slid and like watched the quarterback pick it up and like, you know, scamper his way into the end zone. I was like, oh my God. So like when I watched the Super Bowl, that's all I could think about was that game. Cause like every time a defensive end tried to get to that edge, like the tackle would just be like, shoo. Like,
oh, you're not lying.
Like, it was bad. And there's no rain or anything. And the thing I heard, I think it might've been from 98.5, is that, you know how they bring the grass in and out there in Arizona?
Yes, I heard about some form of a conspiracy about that.
Well, I don't know if it was a conspiracy.
I
don't know if it was a conspiracy, but they basically had like let it rain or rained on it or whatever outside, and then they brought it inside, and it got like moldy. Like, yeah, really? That's what I heard. So like it had like rained on it or something, or they watered it, and like it never rains in Arizona, so like they didn't bring it out to like dry out. They kept it under the dome, and the shot, like it's basically like sand underneath. It's like a golf course. If you play at a really expensive golf course, they have sand based everything.
Right.
And so like the roots are really shallow, and there's really thin line. So like it's basically in this like box. And you have about like this much sand, dirt, mixture, whatever. The roots go down about that far, and the grass is like this tall, like really, really short. Maybe even like bent grass almost. And now like, and so like, if the moisture, it has nowhere to go, right? Like it can create mold and mildew and shit, and that will kill all the grass, and that will bring that condition in. So that was a thing I either read or heard somewhere, and like, and it's an issue. Like, it's one thing if you have a rain game and teams can like prepare, but when you think you're going to be on a fast track, in Arizona, where that's like, it's might as well almost would be turf. It's so like short and like it's made for speed. When you don't have that, like it's tough to play on, and it's dangerous.
Yeah, it is. And one thing that I heard about was, I believe I believe the one who was supposed to be in control of the grass was a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, oh, that's the conspiracy part.
That's the conspiracy
part. See, I'm
part.
the nerd. I'm just like this grass science is amazing, and like the actual point of the article is like there's a conspiracy that the guy's a fan. I'm just like, shut up, grass science.
Now, regardless of those situations, I still have to ask about not only just the field condition in the Super Bowl, but the field conditions that have been going on in the NFL throughout the entire season.
Well,
and I'm not talking about the grass.
Yep.
I'm talking about turf fields.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I messed up my knee playing in college. We were playing in a turf.
High school.
Yep. We were playing on a turf field. It wasn't tight enough. It was an old it was a high school field. It was, I'm not going to mention the town's name. Like, I don't want to like blast the high school, but like basically like they had a turf field, the grassy turf, and like it was old. And I guess what you have to do is like, cause it comes in sections, and basically like, for lack of a better term, sew it all together. But because so much happens on it, and it's like on, there's a little bit of a crown to it, like it starts to loosen and it can move. And that's what happened to my knee. I planted and just, so like a lot of these fields, I feel like they don't, they put, concerts on them. Like they do all of these things on top of it. And, I think there needs to be kind of a memo of sorts to like the teams in the NFL of, it has to meet like, I don't know, a certain standard or something, like, because I feel like it's like the Wild West right now, or like it needs to be sacred. Like the field needs to be sacred. You can build something where you can have like concerts somewhere in the arena somehow, but like it can't be on the field.
Right.
Figure it out, because we can't allow this stuff to happen, like I marvel every time they have like the huge halftime shows and these things they wheel out and stuff, and I'm waiting for a day where it leaves like huge trench marks.
Oh God, yeah.
On a field.
You definitely should expect something to be for that to be able to happen.
Yeah, so like I think injuries might be its biggest problem. I think that's why we're starting with it, because that's your biggest worry, is that, you got guys like Odell Beckham Jr., Julian Edelman, like all these guys have these open field, I think Sterling Shepard for the Giants, like countless guys, just non-contact injuries out in the middle of the field, just like on a cut, or just like even like a straight line running, like, and it just, I don't know, like you got to take that into account, right? At some point.
Absolutely.
And so to go to like 17 games, and this kind of leads us into the next point as well, an oversaturated market. So like 17 games definitely gets guys injured more. I mean, we took away a preseason game. You mean a game that most of the starters don't ever play in anyways? Like you took that away, but then you added another regular season game. Okay. That makes sense. Because they already had an injury problem before, like, so, now, like, it's 17 games. We have a Thursday night game. We have yet to, like, they've yet to take over Friday. Because I think, like,
we want coming, Chuck. It's coming, buddy.
I know, but I think there's still, like, a little bit, like, let's make sure that we, let's make sure that we have the high school, like, kids are going to high school games and stuff like that,
Well, I'll tell you, it's going to be one bad scenario in Texas, because for a fact that they care a lot about their Friday night lights.
Right. So I think it's against the NFL's best interest. But like, Saturday is like the last 3 weeks in the season, and then the playoffs. Obviously Sunday's a big day. Monday's been there for years, but we've had a Tuesday game. Like, because of COVID, we've had a Wednesday, like we've hit it, and like, I don't know, with an extra regular season, they're just getting super greedy. And
you'll know that there's an issue when it comes to oversaturating the market when they have a Wednesday night football game only exclusively on Tubi.
Right.
Okay,
So,
that's when you know it's going to be an issue. All
next
right?
on the CW Wednesday night NFL football. BET presents.
Oh, no. Hey, they already have it on Nickelodeon, so you might as well just let the whole damn thing go.
Yep, exactly. And like, so I think there's a real chance, and now I don't think this would be like the death knell, right? I don't think these two things would be like, really impact truly the bottom line. Like, I'm not gonna stop watching. Like, I'm a Patriots fan through and through, like you are as well. Not a
The hell
Patriots
I am.
fan, but like a football fan. You know what I mean?
I'm a fan of football. You damn right, and I'm a Bears fan well before I would be a Pats fan.
So, my one of my big things is I don't think like the injuries and stuff, because the NFL just doesn't care. They just don't. It's pretty obvious. But I think like they're trying to go to Europe now, like, and it pisses guys off who play fantasy, because there's those like England or Germany games. You're like, there's a 9 a.m. game. I wasn't like planning on setting my lineup until like 11. Like, what the hell? Oh, I got two guys in there. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Like,
it's hurt me a lot when it came to this season.
dude, so many times just like wake up and I'm like, oh, the Vikings are overseas. Oh, Adam Thielen's playing. Oh, he's got 100 yards. Oh, he's on the bench.
Oh, crap. And
and I can't switch him.
The guy that you already had in there is injured and he's already out.
Right, like, I had to go pick someone up on waivers. Like, So, I think there is going to be... I think what might be happening, and you can let me know if you think this... I don't know if I'm stretching it a little bit. I think Goodell is, like, seeing where the limit is, right? Like, you don't know where the cliff is until you get to the cliff. And then I think he'll reel it back, and then he'll solidify, like, kind of the... because this is basically what Paul Tagliabue did, like, regulated, like, the scheduling of it all. And so I think that's where that'll come into play, is he'll find the cliff and just won't go over it, and he'll reel it back a tiny bit. But he'll find that saturation point.
And you have a point there, Chuck, because, I mean, at this point, you're already seeing football games that are out in Mexico, which is fine. You're seeing football games out in England. I believe we've had one, in Munich.
Yeah.
So think about this. I feel like Roger Goodell's swan song is most likely going to be putting a team out there in Europe for good.
See,
I know it's going to be something that's going to be a very long stretch for them to be able to have happen. I don't see it happening within the next 5 years, 10 years. I would probably say within 2032 or 2035, you will see a team out in Europe.
I don't think you're wrong. I just don't. I feel like Mexico City should be that, because one, geographically, you can make it work. You can make Mexico City work geographically. Like, Dallas, Austin aren't that far from it. Like, really, all the Florida teams, like, it's not really that much worse than like New England going to LA.
Mm-hmm.
And I think keeping it geographically, and I think like that, you have a better chance with a more like Central South American audience, I think, because they're closer to the product. Like, there's a lot of crossover between the two cultures, American and Mexican, just based off of being neighbors. No matter how many, people want to try to deny that part. So I think like that would be a smarter and more financially viable play than like Europe, that really hasn't had like that much of an interest. Like, they've like, yeah, it's cool, but like in geographically, like, that's a nightmare. If that's what happens, man, like, that's all I'd hope for, is like, I just hope my team, like the Patriots, aren't the teams that have to go over there because like that's gonna probably be in the AFC East, right? Because it's as far east as you can get.
That's far east as much as unless they end up putting somewhere down in Asia. You have an NFL in Japan.
So like, right then, but like they even had that's my gripe, is like, if you're gonna expand to like, or make it Mexico City, like, you can claim this international thing. You can still have European games and like make money off of those. I just don't like the soccer season's a long season, and like I don't even fully really understand it, to be honest
So
with you.
many various leagues that are there.
Like,
La Liga.
right.
You have the Champions League,
Well,
which all
Premier
mixes
League,
into
all
one.
those, but then you also have like the Euro, like you also have like the Champions League, and
Yep.
that's like all of those major leagues in one, and then you have all the national teams, and it's just like all year round you're gonna have soccer. So there's no real like, I don't know, where do you fit in? It's not like here where it's just like, all right, NHL and NBA have a nice agreement. They're the winter sports. Like MLB summer's yours, yippee! And then
Enjoy
the
it.
fall into the winter, the NFL, you're king. And like, you know, they cross over into each other's like through their off seasons and stuff. That's how they can stay in the news, but they're not playing games like during the same season. There's a lot of crossover because the seasons have bloated themselves so much in the NFL, especially. But like, you know, soccer's 20, like it's all the time. There's different tournaments and leagues and just so much stuff going on. So I just don't know, but like Mexico has no, I don't know, well they have pro sports. I don't want to say that, but like to give them an end to the biggest professional sport like in America, I think would be a huge leg up for the NFL. And you know, they've already conquered Vegas. That would be truly international but geographically viable. I just think, and I think it's kind of an insult to Mexico City, because I think it's probably more, you know, ready for the NFL anyways.
No, and you're not lying too. I mean, don't forget about our neighbors north of the border as well.
Oh, Toronto wants the Buffalo Bills bad, but now that they're good, they have to kind of pull back.
The Bills Mafia is not going anywhere. It's staying in Buffalo until.
If John Bon Jovi had his way, there would be an NFL team in Toronto, bud.
Fast.
But I also think like the CFL is really popular at this point up in Canada, and there are teams that have like formed their allegiances. So I don't know if you'd be as successful like pulling fans from an already national league up there. I don't know if that makes sense.
It is possible. I mean, they are pretty much killing it within their own local sense.
Yeah.
But mind you, we are getting a lot of international viewers, which means we not only get south of the border, but we get them up the north of the border as well.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see them embracing a new NFL team up in Canada. I can definitely see that happening.
Yeah, you might be right. I don't know. But it's certainly not going to be the Buffalo Bills because they're also now getting a new stadium. Yep. They're there to stay. The Pagulas are lockstep in there. And a lot of that had to do with money. Now, money is the king in everything, especially in sports. I've had multiple professors on my way to a master's degree in sports communication tell me pretty bluntly, if you ever want answers of why something's happening, follow the money.
Yep. So
it's how I've lived my adult sports life now, and you know, thanks especially, you know, Dr. Miller for the jadedness. I was already getting there, but like, you know, a little nudge didn't hurt.
All it takes is a little push.
Yeah. But so like the contracts are out of control. The money's out of control. It's so like, here's my question to you and what we put into the description of this, because we've talked about corporations being too big to fail, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is the NFL as a league corporation too big to fail?
Well, as you can tell, we have had, I'd say, 3 go-arounds of different franchises as far as, you know, the XFL tried to go at it one time, failed immensely. The USFL tried to go at it for a season, failed immensely. And then the XFL is rehashing the same exact thing and going at it again.
No, but The Rock. It's The Rock now. He'll definitely be successful.
It means nothing.
It's The Rock.
It still will not even pale in comparison to what this multi-billion-dollar company is going to do to them. That's the reason why they do not compete head to head with them. They would get smashed. There's a reason why this is known as just spring football.
Well,
Okay?
yeah, but it's
So,
good to have a development league. I mean, ultimately, like that's what the SEC is the development league, right? But I think it's good to have a system where you're paying players. I think it's good having a spring football league. Josh Gordon, my boy, because I mean, like he's someone I have to like because like the only reason why he's ever gotten kicked out of the NFL is for something that's on its way to being legal, like weed. Like, and I get
federally,
it. People
yeah.
are like, why couldn't he just not? And like you listen to like Ricky Williams. Ricky Williams was very similar, and it's just like it gave people peace of mind. Like, like it's more like in terms of it kept more people away from the harder drugs, and it's really grueling being a professional athlete. So having that escape is kind of a big deal. And I applaud the NBA because basically it's legal in the NBA. If you've listened to any old head in the NBA, like how much they used to smoke, like it basically like oh, at least since David Stern, they've just like not
Oh,
worried about
they're
it.
just like, all right, fine.
Like guys are gonna smoke pot. That's fine. I think the other leagues really need to follow, but it also lends to like, all right, well, what about this guy's career now? Like, you completely trashed it because of that. Like, how do you make amends with that? It's like Kamala Harris, who put a bunch of people in jail in California, now
Yep.
being a part of an administration that's considering federal legalization. It's like, all right, well, you better release all those people you put in jail for possession.
She won't.
I
She
know,
won't.
I know, but
That's not how that works. Because
that's what
at that time it was illegal,
that's what I want to
and
see.
you're still gonna pay for your thing.
Well, that's what I would like to see from like Goodell is that kind of like give him a chance. He's showing out right now in the XFL, um, but so I think in terms of money, like contracts, like it's to have a quarterback. I mean, you guys have Justin Fields, so you have him on a rookie contract for what the next 2 years, and then you'd have to pick up his option. Now you're in the 20-30 million, probably by then $30 million range, and you might not totally know if he's the guy. So like these contracts have sped up like our decisions on quarterbacks, and like I don't know, man. Like it just feels like it's truly not a team. You don't set up teams. You have like guys that are nice complements to the quarterback, and it's just the money has tilted it so far to the quarterback being important.
Well, you can tell by the way that they end up advertising their teams.
Yeah,
So think about it in a marketing sense. Who is the face that you tend to be able to see on a daily basis?
quarterback.
Unless if it's Jason Kelsey or Travis Kelsey, it's normally going to be the quarterback. It's going to be the Patrick Mahomes, the Daniel Jones. For you, I guess, Mac Joneses. I don't know. For me, Justin Fields. There's reasons why that they have to be able to cater to this because the NFL in itself is catering towards these quarterbacks. So if they're going to be catering to those quarterbacks, they're going to be the ones that are going to be asking for that particular amount of money. Now, if you notice, Daniel Jones just locked up $100 million deal.
Yep.
While Lamar Jackson got franchise tagged. I looked at that and I was like,
well,
how did that even happen?
Let me let me get into that then, because that's the next question to you: is there collusion in the NFL? How big of a problem is it?
Oh my God, it's huge.
Because right now, like this has to be collusion that Lamar Jackson isn't re-signed by the Ravens because there's not enough pressure from other teams, and this one might be more innocent than like the Colin Kaepernick fiasco, but it's still like all the owners are basically like saying to the owners of the Ravens, and apologies for not knowing the owners. I try to not memorize billionaires' names, but like he or they, because it's all a fucking conglomerate. Basically probably have a wink wink nod nod deal like, hey, don't offer him anything and he's gonna have to play for us under the franchise tag. And now if he like has a career ending injury, like he can never cash in on that contract because of what the team did to him and the collusion did.
I'm looking at this in a situation where you have him getting placed on the franchise tag. And now I believe that this was something that was outside in the rumor talks as far as them trying to be able to get him some help because not gonna lie, Baltimore probably has some of the subpar amount of receivers of what they actually have. I mean, Bateman was all right, Devin Duvernay was okay, but they don't really have that big punch that they definitely need. And from what I'm hearing in the NFL rumor talks, it's looking like they're trying to be able to pick up a nice receiver for him. They're going to try to be able to get Alan Lazard. Alan Lazard. That is some of the worst decisions that you could be able to put for someone like Lamar Jackson's caliber. If they don't end up signing someone of a Derrick Henry or someone of a top-tier wide receiver, them putting the franchise tag on them is literally putting them in that form of collusion.
Yep.
Because there's no way in heck for them to be able to not pay the man for what he's actually done for them.
I agree. And I think it's, something that has to be part of Roger Goodell's legacy when he finally is no longer commissioner. Is that there's multiple examples of, obviously, like, I'm going to create a word, colludic behavior. Of collusion. Colludic.
The act of collusion.
The act of collusion.
You have such colludic behavior, sir.
Yeah, you're such a Luddite. A person who practices collusion.
Oh, God.
Anyways, I think it's got to be part of his legacy. I think it's something that has to be a dark mark on his legacy, and there's multiple versions of it, and he's really letting the owners truly control the league. Now, I think there's compared to the NBA goes too far, but we can get to that when we cover the NBA and the state of sports. Where the players have too much, the amount of power the players have in the NBA is insane. But it's the exact opposite in the NFL, where the owners have all of the leverage there is to have. And I think that's got to be part of Roger Goodell's legacy, is that he cost a lot of players a lot of money in the way that he coddled the owners and let them get away with a lot that they shouldn't have.
They are, and I'm going to say this flat out, Roger Goodell is the owner's lapdog.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. He just goes out there, they have a meeting, and it's literally just them just spouting out everything that they need for Roger to be able to say, to be able to make things nice, and to be able to make sure that everything is okay,
yeah,
and that it allows them to be able to do whatever it is that they need to be able to do. It's sad. It sucks. It's one of the reasons why I have such a disdain for Roger Goodell. I don't really care what the hell he was doing with the Patriots and the Deflategate and all that other nonsense. That made me chuckle. Just the fact that, Dave Portnoy was absolutely crushing him ever since then. It was absolutely hysterical, but I sometimes can't stand Roger for different reasons other than that.
Yeah, and, I know that's his job, is to be the owner's lackey, lapdog, like you said. But
it's true.
I think as a commissioner, there is that legacy part of, did you take care of the guys actually doing the work for you? And I think with Roger Goodell, it's an emphatic no. Even after all the concussion stuff came out, they didn't change anything. Players still don't get lifetime, insurance after the NFL. And we opened the show talking about some of our own injuries and took us out of football and what we're still dealing with, right? I play hockey a lot now, and I tweaked my knee 2 weeks ago. I still feel the bruise on the inside of my knee because neither of my knees have any more cartilage, and that's pretty much entirely because of what I put my body through to get to the D3 college level, let alone D1 NFL or D1 and NFL. I look at it, people are like, do you think you would have like could have played D1? And like, you know, probably in my 20s, I was probably cocky enough and stupid enough to be like, yeah, man, like I got a half-ass scholarship from. That's what I always like to call it now. I got a half-ass scholarship from Marist College, which means like they were like, yeah, we'll pay for your books.
Oh my God! I'm sorry. I just got some breaking news.
What?
I just got some breaking news, and I really hope that this is not the case because this is probably one of the stupidest things I thought that I would actually see. The Bears are trading their first-round draft pick, which I was expecting. I didn't expect them to
The
be able to do that.
Bills? You said the Bills or
The Bears.
The
The
Bears? Huh? Who?
Yeah, the Bears actually have the number 1 draft pick.
Oh, right. Yeah, but they were gonna.
as it was expected.
Sorry.
The Bears were going to be able to trade their number 1 draft pick. So they have traded their number 1 draft pick.
Yeah.
It's for. I need to double check the actual draft picks as a whole, but the actual acquisition, what the Bears received,
Yep.
was DJ Moore.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
and then just some draft picks.
DJ Moore and a sprinkle of draft picks.
That's not the worst. That's not. They had to have had. Wait, where? That's Carolina.
Carolina.
I mean,
Bears.
I don't. I know it's not like a sexy, like, but DJ Moore's nice.
He's nice, but we need a one. There's no
also,
one
like,
from
when's
Chicago.
When's the draft? Like, that's late April, right? April 20
That's
something.
late April.
So there's no need to make this trade now.
Yeah.
It's also no need to make this trade now. All right. Well, that kind of brings me then to, you know, so what we can finish up with is future of the league, because I think this just kind of answers our, like, we've been talking about the league, we've been talking about the negatives within the league, but ultimately we interrupt like a podcast episode to break news about the first overall draft pick for a team that one of us loves. Like, that's still like where we're at in terms of, you know, where the league is at currently.
So we ended up getting their 9th overall pick, so we're at least within the top 10 still. That's 10. Not as bad.
You're not even like, you're like, fuck your question, Chuck. I'm gonna
sorry,
keep going over the draft pick.
I'm really just like I was a little bit upset when it came to this draft pick, and I'm looking at him like, we really did all that just for DJ Moore.
You're still in the top 10, though. You're still in the top 10. Like, you can get.
That's the point. That's why I wanted to come back on that one more time. So,
all right,
Chuck, could you mind coming back with that question one more time, please, sir?
Yeah. So basically, like, it leads us into, like, we're talking about all these negative things with the league, but now I want to kind of go into and finish up with, obviously right now, like, there's no way like someone like you or I could ever not pay attention to this. Like, we break up this show where we're like talking about the NFL and its issues, and all of that kind of stuff, and then like, but like the second something big happens, it's just like, dude, you gotta, like, you know, we go right to it. So at least for like right now, man, and then give me like your 10, 20, 50 years in the future, like where you see the NFL if it'll still exist past, you know, 50 years down the road. So like, you know, from now to 50 years from now, where do you see the NFL evolving?
Well, as I mentioned to you before, I said like within 15 years, we may end up having a team in Europe. I can see it happening within the UK, but when you were saying that we should most likely have a team in Mexico City, I can also see that happening too.
Just saying.
I can definitely see them starting with it being in Mexico City to be able to let them know that they're internationally bound, and then they end up moving all throughout into Europe.
You think so? So that's within 10 years?
That is actually within 10 years. Within 10 years, I see a team coming from Mexico City.
Yeah.
Within 20 years, I see a team coming within Europe.
All right.
And within 50 years, to be completely honest, it's money. When it comes to money, it don't die out. Billionaires stay billionaires, and they don't go away. If they're gone, that means that their successor is going to be another billionaire. So that means that this train is going to keep on going, man. So this will be here long before we expire. I sense the NFL still being around before it expires. I can see Super Bowl 107 happening in the mist.
All right, that's fair. I think I agree with you on the Mexico City thing. I think it's dipping the toe in the pool a little bit before expanding to Europe. I think though, like in that like 20 to like 50-year range, I think that's where we really see either the sport of football completely evolve to not being what we know and love today. Um, I don't think it's a sustainable sport injury wise the way it's played,
Mm.
and big names that get hurt and aren't playing, like a Lamar Jackson, when he's holding out, especially this year when he's like trying to negotiate a contract. Um, I think there is going to be a point where NFL has a reckoning, but ultimately, like this particular sport is fully tied to like the American Empire, right? So if the American Empire is still going, NFL there will still be a version of the NFL somewhere.
Yep.
If there isn't an American Empire, then I think the NFL goes along with it because it's our gladiatorial sport, and as long as the Empire is good and strong, it'll stick around. If the Empire is crumbling or whatever, and not to say that's my prediction for the American Empire in 50 years. I'm just saying it's other empires have fallen in quicker times.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's tied to that, but I really think I don't think you and I as old men in our 80s and 50 years down the line are gonna recognize the sport that we once played. I still don't at times recognize it, especially with like the helmet technology. Like the thing that annoys me the most from this year, from college and the NFL, are the helmets where it's just the bottom and then it's always like a visor and there's no like cage at the top. Like those helmets just look stupid. It looks like a race car helmet, and I don't think it has anything to do with football. And I think it shows like where we're going, and I can't think of any reason why that would like help concussions or anything. It's got to just be like, I don't know, it has to just be an aesthetics thing. It's just the future of football. Like everyone's gonna wear a visor. I still want that like Tony Saragusa with like 3 bars and 1 bar, like who basically like ate a hot dog, drank a beer, threw on some pads, and just wouldn't beat the crap out of people. Like
that's known as our bucket hats now. Like they call our helmets that we used to wear back in the day bucket helmets now.
Really?
It bugs the hell out of me because I look at it going like, this was innovative to us.
Right.
Like what we had, like remember the Revolution?
Yeah, wore it in high school, wore it.
They call those bucket helmets now. They're obsolete. They're worthless.
Bucket heads. Stupid.
They're bucket helmets.
You're a bunch of stupid bucket heads. We're not that old. It's not like the peach bucket from like, the start of basketball from gymnasium.
And we're not leatherheads, okay?
Right.
We're not one of those that are wearing a whole thing of leather and playing football back in the 1930s, okay?
The youths, Tony. The youths are trouble. The youths are trouble. Bucket helmets, jeez. They don't even look like buckets. Like, what are they talking about? Bucket helmets. Oh, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. This is going to bug me. I can feel myself, like, getting older and just being like, darn kids, get off my lawn, calling it a bucket helmet. This was, like, all our coaches, I remember, like, all our coaches, like, basically told quarterbacks, like, you're going in the revolution whether you like it or not. Like,
yep.
So, all right, man. Well, NFL's not going anywhere, but I think there are some reckoning moments that are coming, especially with the injuries. I don't think they can ever go past 17 games without like fully expanding the roster and just basically running it like a soccer club. Like a soccer club will rest guys at certain games, and like you're gonna have a lot more injury management going on if you expand it any further than it is. Like the human body can't take anymore. We're at the expense of it. Any final thoughts to leave our audience of note?
Well, I'd like to be able to say, just to kind of piggyback off of 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, I want to add one more expansion to that. That would be the the way that we play football will most likely evolve as well. There will most likely be a lot of rule changes that will end up occurring. And I can honestly say, not going to lie, this is going to really suck to be able to hear, Chuck. Offensive linemen may end up becoming obsolete. I see that happening within 50 years. I can see literally this league being one of those where it is going to be trying to take care of as much safety as possible.
Hold on.
And oh yeah, I know. Grab a bucket. I would feel like puking too. I honestly feel like this may end up turning into some form of 7-on-7, just literally just allowing them to be able to not even really do what they end up doing now. Yep, she's strapped in.
I'm gonna wear this the rest of the show so you can't see me crying. That's what's going on. That's what's going on. If you're telling me it's the end of the offensive and defensive linemen, what did I put my body through? Why do I have arthritis in both shoulders?
You would be known as relics.
I don't think you're wrong, too. That's why,
I know. You know that I'm not wrong about this.
I know.
I feel like this is definitely going to be one of those situations. Look, as long as the billionaires are going to try to be able to cater to the audience that are watching this sport, they feel that this sport is too violent. If they feel that this sport is too violent, they are going to cater to them. So that means that they are going to get rid of the offensive and defensive linemen. They're going to be getting rid of, most likely, they're going to be getting rid of the tackling, the way that we normally tend to be able to see tackling.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be the type of football that we got to be able to play when we were there, or we were able to be able to watch when we were kids.
I don't know how I ever wore this for practice and games. This is already like, it's so heavy. It's so heavy.
For years. We did that for years. It's insane.
I don't know how. All right.
And last thing for me, the Pro Bowl is definitely going away within 10 years.
Oh my God, it should. I think
it
they're
already should go away.
They're basically just going to play like flag football that's what they did this year, basically. So it's already gone.
That's it.
Yeah.
They need to just completely disband it.
Yep. All right. Well, that didn't end the way I thought it would. I'm going to cry. And,
I didn't see you ending this podcast with your helmet on your head.
Yeah. No one saw that coming. Well, that does it for us on the one and only Sizzling Sports Talk Radio show. I don't know if it'll be next week or in a couple of weeks, but we will have our next up, what I think will be the next most popular one. But also, and people will debate this. I think the NBA has overtaken the MLB. NBA will be next. State of Sports. NBA on the Sizzling Sports Talk Radio show. We'll see you next time. Tony, thanks for joining.
A pleasure as always. Please don't go into a hole and cry.
It's going to be tough. I'm not going to lie.